Hello, my name is López, and I'm the Associate Director of the University of South Carolina's Institute for Families and Society. It is an honor for me to welcome you to the Voces project, a series of videos highlighting the birth experiences of Black and Brown women enrolled in Medicaid. As a university professor, a woman of color, the mother of 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren, I am professionally and personally invested in helping to ensure a safe and healthy birth experience for all birthing people. A new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that in 2021, the United States had the worst maternal mortality rates since they began collecting data, an increase of roughly 40% from the previous year. Black women in particular continue to carry the weight of this crisis, with a maternal mortality rate in 2021 that was 3 times higher than that of white women. These statistics paint a bleak picture of the risk faced by Black women and persons of color giving birth. The numbers cannot begin to capture the true scale of this crisis. Each person represented in the CDC statistics is a life lost too soon, leaving loved ones to grieve at a time when they should be celebrating a new life. A call to action is needed to teach healthcare providers to listen to women's voices and ensure that birthing experiences are person-centered and reflect the needs of all. Thank you for viewing these videos. We encourage you to share these videos with your networks, with your students, healthcare partners, creating opportunities to learn, to think, to discuss, and encourage everyone to join us in a call to action to make the changes needed to give women of color the safest and best pregnancy and birthing care possible. Thank you.
Is this your first pregnancy? ¿Es tu primer embarazo?
Tell me about your previous pregnancies. How old are your children?
How did you find out you were pregnant?
Tell me about your relationship.
What concerns
What
do
did
you
the
have?
doctors tell you
What
about
concerns you're
COVID?
hoping to have addressed?
So, it was just always something with them. Every single time. Even up until the way that I got induced and everything. The first doctor, before she left, told me I was high risk. But when I went to the new doctor, she said, well, I just want to know what I can do to help you because I'm a high risk doctor. So tell me, what is it? You look fine. I said, I'm assuming, doctor, that I'm here to see you because of my placenta and my fibroids. So she was kind of shocked, like, well, we'll run tests, but you're really not high risk. However, after they cut my main artery during my C-section, they said the reason we gave her a C-section is because she's high risk. Now at this time, I'm doped up on medicine, but I was like, that's bullshit. I'm good for a vaginal delivery for the last 2 months. Now I'm high risk again because you all messed up. Before going into the OR, I had been in labor for 18 hours. So they make us sign a waiver, you know, in the event of an emergency where you take a blood transfusion. I say yes. Then they say there's a 1% chance we'll have to put you under anesthesia. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we finally make it to the back. They pulled Grayson out. I cried. Neil gave me a kiss on the cheek. They gave him to Neil. And within a minute later, they made Neil leave the room. Then I hear she's oozing blood. I'm like, oozing? Oozing never sounds good. I have been telling Neil that if I have to get a C-section, I felt like something was going to happen. So I've been trying to prepare him, like I need you to be on point because I may not make it back. I had started to look into maternal mortality, and the death rates of Black women in delivery, it scared me. I was like, I'm giving myself to God because I know I'm not making it up out of this. Then I hear I'm going to need a trauma doctor So I prayed, not for myself, but for my son, for Neil, for my family. Then the lady comes up to me and she says, "Sweetheart, we're gonna have to put you under." And I was like, "That's it. Thank you, Most High, for this beautiful life. Please protect my child, because I'm so scared. And because of all the negligence that had been done to me prior to being in the delivery room." Well, now I'm in the OR, and everything that was a 1% chance of happening to me has happened. That's it. I'm done. Then the black doctor came up, and she says, "Everything is going to be okay. I got you. You're going to be okay. I got you." In that moment, she brought me back to life.
All right, so, is this your first pregnancy?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a boy or a girl?
A boy.
A little boy, all right. And are you excited about this pregnancy?
I'm just so excited about becoming a parent for the first time. It's just wonderful.
¿Es tu primer embarazo?
Es mi cuarto embarazo. Tengo 3 hijos más.
Second, I had a miscarriage the first time.
So I guess you could say first.
Sometimes I say first, people are like, "You had a miscarriage." This is the second. So, I don't know.
Es mi tercer embarazo. Bueno, es el quinto, pero el tercero que tuve. Tengo 3 niñas.
Tell me about your previous pregnancies.
Ooh, okay. My first pregnancy, I believe I was 25, and I ended up getting an abortion. My second pregnancy was a year after that. I gave birth to my son in June of 2016. I had preeclampsia, so I had him at 34 weeks. He was 3 pounds and 14 ounces when he was born. I waited about 4 years to get pregnant again, so this is my third pregnancy.
How many other children do you have, and how old are they? I don't have any, but this is my third pregnancy.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
¿Cuándo supo que estaba embarazada?
When did you know you were pregnant?
I found out when I went to get birth control. Yeah, so that was a surprise.
Estaba trabajando y empecé a sentirme mal. Y ya en la tarde ya no pude pararme, porque tenía un dolor de cintura fuerte. Y fui al hospital. Ahí es donde me enteré que sí, estaba embarazada. Y me preocupé porque yo decía, yo no sé qué me pasó. Y porque empezaba a sangrar. Entonces yo pensé, este bebé quizás no lo va a lograr. Estando yo sola acá, sin familia, me preocupé.
Normally, for me, the moment I can't brush my teeth with toothpaste, I know I'm pregnant. And I know that sounds so weird, but I'm pretty sure somebody else can relate. If I can't handle toothpaste, I know to call my OB.
How did you find out you were pregnant?
Kidney stones! Yes, ma'am, I went in for kidney stones and came out with a baby.
I didn't know I was pregnant until I was 14 or 15 weeks. I had said I didn't want any more kids. That's why I got the Mirena. But when I went to go get checked, she said she didn't see it. She said, "I'm gonna have to go get you an ultrasound to see if it's stuck in there or if it fell out." When I got the ultrasound, lo and behold, there was a whole baby in there. Yeah, so it's about 3 months. I passed out and had a seizure. So when I came to call the ambulance and I got to the hospital, I found out then. I was scared because I wasn't expecting this man to tell me I was pregnant at all. I thought it was gonna be like, "Oh yeah, you're dehydrated, we're gonna hook you up to some bag." The usual. Not, "Oh, congratulations, you're having a baby."
How did you feel about being pregnant?
Honestly, I wasn't really excited.
Pues a la vez estaba feliz, pero sorprendida porque yo no soy de las que se embarazan fácil.
The happiest thing about my pregnancy was the fact, or the person I was having a child with. Everything else, I did not like it.
Pues yo le llamo que fue mi bebé milagro, ya que mi esposo es sobreviviente de leucemia y cuando él estaba en tratamiento, los médicos le hicieron firmar un consentimiento donde él estaba enterado de las consecuencias a largo plazo de las quimioterapias, que entre ellas era quedar estéril. Entonces, para nosotros, este embarazo es un milagro de Dios, ¿sí?
I didn't tell nobody except for the father of the baby. I did tell him. We should take to the left field. He was like, his most. He was like, oh, okay.
You can say whatever you want to say. You can say, however, whatever you want to.
Well, he was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do because I already have 2 other kids. And I was like, you know what? You did this. Because the whole control thing was all on you. Like, I didn't ask for this. I told him I'm going to keep my baby. You're there or you're not. That's the last time I talked to him.
When I told my then boyfriend, he actually passed out. I laughed. I snorted like a pig. It was so funny because all you heard over the phone was a thud and like, get help, get help. And I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with this man. He's so dramatic.
So my second pregnancy, that was like 2 years ago, and I pretty much bled throughout that whole pregnancy because I had a hemorrhage on the sac. But my doctor, he told me it would heal up over time, and eventually he told me the hemorrhage was healed. So exactly a week later, I called him. I told him, I don't feel right and that something is wrong. He was like, oh, well, this is the first time you've carried, so you really don't know what to expect, and blah, da, 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 da. And so like a week before I lost the baby, I started feeling real bad. And I started swelling up real bad, like when I was 6 months. And I called him, and exactly a week later, he told me I didn't have preeclampsia or anything and that everything was fine. But when I lost the baby, I called my mother and I told her, I don't feel right. And she must have known I was having contractions because she got miles in like 5 minutes. But before she got there, I started bleeding out everywhere. And by the time I got to the hospital, they said that she had basically came out of the sac and drowned in the fluid or whatever. But they didn't tell me what happened. They just told me that these things happen. I was just smart enough to go get my medical records. And it turns out when they examined the placenta, the hemorrhage never healed. And as I got heavier, it tore across, and that's how she came out of the sac. But now I'm having twins. But I found out that one of them has the same exact thing. It's basically, the placenta doesn't fully attach to my uterus, and I've had a little bit of bleeding, but I haven't been bleeding a lot with this one. And the last ultrasound appointment I went to, the tech said that everything looked fine, and it looked okay, but she was gonna get the doctor to take a look and make sure. But I haven't heard anything else about that. And the first doctor I went to, he told me there was nothing I could do. It's just something that my body does. My fiance was freaked out. We went to the flea market and we was walking around, and with all the pressure and stuff, I kind of had to walk my legs open a little bit. And he saw me doing that, and he was like, I'll be right back. And he came back with a wheelchair. And I said, boy, I'm not handicapped. He was like, sit down. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, and he was like, I don't know if I can handle another one.
When you began prenatal care, did you have questions or concerns that you're hoping to address during your visits?
Not really. Not at first. I think when COVID came along, I started having stuff, and then that's when I started having questions. But even the doctors and nurses had limited information, because we all have limited information.
They just kept us up to date with what they knew, what they were figuring out, what precautions to still take. They made sure to continuously be communicating with us at our appointments, via email, my MyChart. Everything stayed up to date with the most up-to-date information.
What did the doctors tell you about COVID?
Just follow the guidelines.
Estar siempre lavándome las manos.
Always wear a mask.
You know, putting on hand sanitizer after you've been shopping because you've been touching stuff whether you bought it or not.
Salir lo menos posible.
Washing your fruits and vegetables.
Estar lo menos posible en grupos grandes de personas.
They told me that she was like, Samira, I'm gonna be honest with you. You need to stay your behind at home. Because also I'm asthmatic, so it was like, I need to stay home.
That's why I hate having to go to multiple stores. And, you know, my cousin, she lives in Virginia. She said she don't leave her house but to go to work because she has Amazon Fresh. And they deliver to your door. And in Colombia, Publix and stuff like that delivers to you. But of course, in Orangeburg, we don't have stuff like that. So I have to actually go to the store. And now they're talking about food shortages and there won't be any more baby wipes until 2021. It's just like, oh my God.
What concerns did you have related to COVID?
Well, getting that period. I know one of my homegirls, she's 6 months pregnant, and she's on 99% oxygen. And they talking about taking her baby and stuff from her. So I don't plan on going nowhere unless I have to.
Sí, me preocupé porque mi hijo, en ese rato iba a la escuela, pero ya después ya no se fueron. Acá, nada más la casa. Y ahora daba miedo de salir a las tiendas, ir a barman, ya da miedo. Pero ahora, gracias a Dios que estamos bien.
How did you feel about wearing a mask? Was that something you felt was important?
My doctor, my favorite doctor, the only doctor I will ever go to have a child. That's why I'm skeptical to move up here because I don't want any other doctor than my doctor I have now. She always tells me that I should always have on a mask because there's a lot of pregnant women that's in the hospital right now that have the COVID-19 and it's not good. They'll get their baby, then they can't see their baby. Maybe because their baby doesn't have it, but they have it. So I don't go anywhere without either one of my masks. Now I always make sure my son has on his because he got himself a little baby mask.
It just seems like everything contradicts itself because one moment they're telling you don't wear the mask because the mask isn't going to do anything, and then you can't go into a store without a mask on. So it's just like, what's next? What's the deal?
The way my mind is set up, I don't believe in anything that's man-made. And I believe that COVID is man-made. So I haven't been wearing my mask the whole time I've been pregnant. And everybody like, oh, you need to wear your mask or you're going to get your baby sick, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if it's for me, it's for me. I mean, if God wants me to get this quote-unquote disease, he'll give it to me. If not, then I'll be perfectly fine.
My kid's daddy, he thinks that. And I'm like, well, whether it's man-made or not, you can still catch it. And I mean, sometimes, well, he wear a mask at work, but sometimes in the morning, I'll put him an extra pair of basketball shorts and a t-shirt, and I'll have him go outside and put it on. He don't really get mad about it or nothing. He just say, oh, you take it too serious. But I'm like, no, you don't take it serious enough, right? Because I gotta protect me and these kids. You done been around people all day, dabbing them up, what's up, man, hugging on people, and then you want to kiss me all on my face and pick up the boys? I'm like, no, don't touch nobody, just go watch. So now, every time he comes home, he'll just say, hey, and he'll go straight and wash his hands.
How did the COVID-19 pandemic affect your doctor's visits?
At one point, they started the conjoint phone appointments. It was cool, like I really didn't want to drive to Columbia anyway, so it was cool for a time.
So you could do the virtual, or you could do curbside where they come out to the car and, you know, they'll see you out there. Or you could do it over the phone. But I like to go inside because they listen to the baby heartbeat. And they do all that from inside. Pues, ahí en la puerta habían 2, 3 personas tomando la temperatura, que lleven mascarilla, preguntándole si usted tiene cita y solo el que tiene cita lo dejan entrar. Entonces él no tiene cita. Y él habla bastante en inglés. Yo bien poco entiendo, poquito. Entonces ahí fue bien difícil para mí.
Even if my husband were to come with me to my appointments, he couldn't come to the back with me. And that was like, okay, that's a game changer because of course he wants to see the baby on the ultrasound and stuff like that. So that took away from him, you know, and that took away my support.
It was just a lot. I wouldn't say it was aggravating, but I was like, oh my gosh, I was over it. This whole COVID thing, I'm still over it. It's changing a whole lot. It's just,
I have been back since they officially announced everything COVID because they won't have a bring my son. But previous to that, I would just bring them a stroller and I would walk around the room with me. The nurses they love my son. They were there for almost the whole pregnancy. Now I haven't been back since, and there's not really much I can do, so I'm kind of just stuck.
Pues a las citas llevo mi máscara, cubriéndome la cara, llevo el cabello recogido, trato de siempre traer mis pantalones y trato de pedir la cita por la mañana para ser la primera en entrar a la clínica y no tener que estresarme y pensar, ay, otra persona entró enferma.
Did your doctors talk to you about nutrition, stress management, breastfeeding? Not really, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I think part of it is because they were trying so hard to get me out of there so quickly. One doctor told me, if you have questions, I'll answer them, but we're trying to get you out of here as soon as possible because we want you and baby to be as safe as possible. They did give me this huge book of things, what to do, what not to do.
So basically, our plans were to have the kids over at his sister's when I got into labor, right? And COVID threw that out the window. Couldn't send the kids over there because his mom lives over there and she has medical problems. So we had to keep them separated from their grandmother and everything. So it was just like one thing right after the next.
When I had my daughter, April 30th, we were gone the next day. Like, yeah, the next day. As long as you're healthy and baby is healthy, you're out of here. We didn't even see a doctor before we left. The head charge nurses came in, gave us our discharge papers, a prescription, and we were on our way.
Pues a eso del mediodía me llamaron, me dijeron, ¿usted se va a ir hoy en la tarde? Y yo decidí no irme. Y le dije, yo no puedo irme. Yo apenas me puedo parar de esta cama, me duele. Y me dijeron, no, pero te damos medicamento para eso, vas a estar bien. Y dije, bueno, sí, puedo irme, pero antes de abandonar el hospital, yo quiero estar 100% segura de que voy a estar bien. Yo acabo de dar a luz ayer. Yo creo que con un día que yo me quede está bien. Y me dice, no, no te preocupes, está bien, si te quieres quedar, te puedes quedar, nada más que estás bien y si te quieres ir, te puedes ir. Les dije, bueno, sí, mañana en la mañana yo tomo la decisión y me voy.
La verdad es que ha sido muy difícil, dramante, porque tengo mucho tiempo que me toca ir sola al hospital, porque a mi esposo no lo dejan entrar. Él siempre es de la persona que me acompaña a todas las citas médicas, aunque llevamos a mi hijo, vamos los tres, pero ahorita con la de la pandemia me toca ir sola al hospital, tengo que ir sola. Él solo una vez entró a un ultrasonido. Y no les niego que a veces me pongo así triste porque mis embarazos han sido bien difíciles. Me siento enferma, me dan muchas náuseas, malestar. Y no les niego que a veces hasta he llorado porque cuando miro que este virus no se va y que miro que hay ahorita más casos aquí, y ahorita que ya abrieron la economía, el comercio, se ha expandido más. Entonces me da como un miedo, un temor de que cuando este bebé nazca en, no sé, abril, decía yo, bueno, quizás ya para ese tiempo van a estar mejor. Y pues uno va pensando y uno va mirando las noticias y mira que hay más casos y van peor y da miedo porque va a llegar el día y digo yo, Dios, por favor cuida a mi bebé que no le vaya a pasar nada. Pero ahí vamos. Yo estoy confiando en Dios de que todo va a salir bien. Ya, por lo menos, me dijeron que mi esposo puede entrar conmigo el día de parto y no. Es que el otro día el doctor me dijo que las reglas de los hospitales van cambiando todos los días. Y ya el otro día me dijeron que mi esposo puede entrar una persona. Y el otro día que regresé me dijeron que pueden entrar 2 personas. 2 personas pueden entrar. Y siguen cambiando. Y ahora no entran así niños. Yo tengo un niño y lo voy a tener que dejar y no sé con quién porque casi... Bueno, sí, tenemos. Mi esposo tiene un hermano acá, pero no me acostumbro a dejar mi niño así con otra gente y lo vamos a tener que dejar porque voy a estar allá 2, 3 días y por eso del virus mi hijo no puede entrar al hospital ni nada, a esperar hasta que yo salga.
Did you have any concerns about how to pay for medical services or the things you needed for yourself or your baby?
So my husband, he was working at a hotel, and when everything went to COVID, you know, people wasn't traveling, but they cut his hours in like half, to the point where it was like, okay, money's low. But he was looking for a job that wouldn't really expose him to people, and by the grace of God, he got a delivery driving position, and that happened like a month before I went into labor, so it happened like right on time.
Mi pareja tuvo que dejar su trabajo porque su trabajo le exponía un poco más a la gente de afuera.
The hospital I work at is pretty small. And the majority has become more COVID patients than actual regular patients or whatever. So then we decided to stay home. That has been a struggle with him trying to pick up my slack. Because he'll be out of work every now and again, because some of his coworkers, they have a couple of them that tested positive. So they shut down, clean it and sanitize it and stuff. So it's been a struggle as far as financial wise.
Yeah, you know, I was like, I don't think I should be out in the public and I'm carrying a child. So I didn't have a job the whole pregnancy. But I didn't get sick. I didn't catch the COVID, thank God.
I didn't have a baby shower, but the gifts were plentiful. My family and friends just started bringing things. So of course I bought stuff. His dad bought stuff, his dad's sister, and his dad's mom, and all of them bought stuff.
I had Medicaid, and that helped me out so much because I didn't have to pay for a thing. The lady called, she said, we'll cover it. If something doesn't work right, you call us back and we'll figure it out.
At first, I did have, I guess it was the emergency Medicaid because it didn't cover my entire pregnancy, which was a bummer because when you get to the end is where the most expensive bills and stuff come, and they like that to be paid in full prior to the delivery. So yeah, I had to get a loan to pay that doctor bill off, and it was really hard. I don't understand why I got approved for partial months with Medicaid, but not the whole thing.
I had partial Medicaid. I guess it's based off of different income brackets and stuff, which I was trying to explain to them when they asked for the pay stubs, that those pay stubs included overtime, which I was no longer working. And I don't think it's fair to go by, you know, if it's not my normal 24/7 income, I don't think it's fair to use that old information.
Pues yo llamé para irme de nuevo y esta vez nadie me contestó. Bueno, sí me contestaba la máquina, pero hablaba el inglés y no sé qué decía. Yo no hablo el inglés y no tengo quien me traduzca. Luego de eso me llegó un bill de $6,000 y me preocupé, o sea, ¿de dónde voy a sacar ese dinero de lo que me cobran? Pero hablé con una señora y me dijo, aplica ahí a ¿cómo se llama? A la financiera. Y fui ahí, apliqué y gracias a Dios califiqué para el Medicaid y eso me puso feliz porque, o sea, estamos sola aquí en este país y ya que alguien me ayude.
At first it was difficult because of the COVID, because the offices were closed. So usually when you found you're pregnant, they give you the confirmation, the paper that you confirming that you take to the Medicaid office and you have Medicaid within 3 days. But they gave me the paper. I went to the office and realized they were closed. I had to fax everything over to the corporate office or the head office. They're based out of Columbia. And I had to submit my application online. It took weeks.
Pues con el Medicaid de mis hijos fue una experiencia normal. O sea, en 2 semanas o 3 semanas ya tenía el Medicaid de ellos. El Medicaid que pedí con mis hijos fue una experiencia normal. Pero ahorita, con lo de la pandemia, realmente tomó casi 5 meses para obtener mi Medicaid de emergencia, para recibir un número.
When I would go to the doctor's office and they would bill for my appointments, they would say, oh, your insurance didn't go through. Then I had to sit on the phone and reschedule all my appointments. That was a lot of gas money. Paying people for rides or even just walking there in the heat to get there and having to walk back because insurance wasn't situated.
Cuando aplicamos para el Medicaid de emergencia y nos lo aprobaron, pues nos pusimos muy felices porque un parto es bastante dinero y la aseguranza no lo cubre todo. Y yo pensé que ya no me iban a llegar más biles del hospital, pero como les decía de los ultrasonidos, me hacen uno todos los lunes. $500 es bastante dinero. Y mi esposo me dice, no te preocupes, que hacemos plan de pago. Y yo le dije, mira, yo pensaba que con el Medicaid de emergencia y la aseguranza, que no nos íbamos a tener que preocupar por más biles, pero yo no sé, yo tengo esa duda.
COVID has made it so much worse for me. I deal with depression, anxiety, I have bipolar, I deal with a lot of mental health issues. And my medication has not been this high in years. I dealt with a lot before COVID came along. I have 4 kids, a newborn, and I had had surgery on my leg. I had had her in April and turned around and had my surgery in July. So she was about 3 months old when we had the kids homeschooled because of COVID. Get down, Ayana, get down. So it got kind of hectic and crazy. And I got really lonely and depressed because Dad could be the only one working and the kids and I were shut in the house. And I've never been used to being a stay-at-home parent. I've been used to working and carrying my weight. So not doing that made me feel like less of a parent, I guess, at the time. Shoes, socks, shoes. Well, for the most part, I had to deal with everything by myself. I mean, my kid's father, my fiance, he doesn't really understand the mental health situation. So when I try to explain to him what I'm feeling or what I'm going through, it goes over his head. But he was there. He was there for emotional support. That was the biggest thing he could do for me, was give me emotional support. Me and my kid's father have been together for 12 years. And we do everything together. He's never missed the birth of a child. Matter of fact, we had a previous child at home. Yes, at home. In our bathtub. She was our 3rd child, and I was sleeping. And I got up because I felt like I had to use the bathroom. And you know when I thought I tinkled on myself. But when I got to the bathroom, the water was still running down my leg. I'm not peeing anymore. This is not pee. I looked down and she had already gotten her foot out. She was breached and had managed to get her foot out. So I hopped into the tub and I called my fiance, and he turned into a ghost in front of me. Looked like he was gonna pass out. But he managed to get the phone and get directions from the EMS or the dispatch officer and help me deliver. I was freaking out. I couldn't describe it any other way. I was freaking out because I have an actual foot just hanging out between my legs. Now, by the time the fire department or the EMS got there, we were handing them a baby. Now this time, with COVID, he had to stay home with our other kids because our kids are asthmatic. And just so happened, I went into labor Easter Sunday, and I was in the middle of an Easter egg hunt, and I had just finished dinner. And she decided to do loopity-loops and whirly-whirls and make me very nauseous and sick. I got very weak. I couldn't stand. And then she started kicking, and it caused me to go into contractions. Well, now I'm trying to find Dad. We had the lady coming up from down the street to take me to the emergency room, and it took Dad about 30 to 45 minutes to get there. And I'm in labor at this point. Mind you, this is no fake labor. This is spontaneous outright, I'm having contractions that are less than, I would say, a minute apart. It took us 25 minutes to get to the hospital. The lady hit her flashers, and we caught a nice officer on the way. I delivered about an hour later because the officer was so nice to help me get there. But he had to miss the birth of a child. He did not like it.
So, it's really the mental health aspect. And, you know, when you look it up, they don't really talk about it. There's postpartum depression, but there's also prenatal depression, which I ended up getting. And I didn't even know that was a thing.
Nunca había estado en un parto cesárea, entonces no sabía cómo iba a ser. Y por fin luego estuve sola con mi esposo. Luego me decían, no, tal vez ni tu esposo va a estar contigo. Y yo dije, ¿cómo me va a ir en el parto sola? Con algo nuevo, que no iba a saber cómo iba a ser.
I was real depressed during this pregnancy. I was really, really depressed.
That is really one of the things that I'm dealing with. And I think postpartum is the PTSD of that. I didn't want to say that at first because everyone's like, how are you doing? How's your mind? Are you good? Are you experiencing postpartum? I never experienced postpartum in the sense of, oh, I'm so sad. I don't want to be here. I don't want my child. I never felt that part. But what I did experience and what I am experiencing is the traumatization of the childbirth. I don't ever want to do it again. I don't ever want to experience what I experienced, and I don't want another woman to experience what I experienced.
Sí, yo creo que fue lo más triste de mi vida. Empecé a sentirme mal, con náusea, dolor de cabeza y yo nunca he tenido síntomas de nada. Yo en todos mis embarazos nunca me he dado síntomas. En cambio ahora el dolor de cabeza, las náuseas y empecé a sentirme triste por estar sola acá en Estados Unidos sin mi familia y eso me preocupó. I mean, I have a supportive family, but it's just tiring because he be at work, I be here with these kids, and sometimes I need sleep and I can't get any sleep.
I was already on stir crazy because I had to go on bed rest. Going on bed rest made me cry because I really love my job. Then having to stay home because of COVID, it just made me an emotional wreck.
How did you discover that you had postpartum depression?
I guess it was just being at home by myself with both kids. I mean, my mom, she was there, but she's not much help. And I could just tell I was down. So I would start looking up symptoms about it. And then when I went to the doctor, I had to take a questionnaire. And that's how she figured I had it.
Did you get help with your depression?
I did not. I think I just told my sister and my boy's dad about the stuff that I had been feeling. And me being me, just thinking I'm too strong for counseling and stuff like that. I definitely think I needed more help than what I was giving myself. I think I probably needed medication because I have nighttime anxiety. Or like by myself, if I'm alone, that's when I really feel like it's kicking in. But with people around me, I do okay. But it got better. It got better than what it was.
He was a good doctor. Like, I had no complaints until he started forgetting the stuff that I needed. So my first couple weeks of prenatal care were horrible. And I was like, I'm not gonna deal with nobody. He's going to forget about me.
So I walked into the doctor's office one day, and this is my first child. And this lady, she's like, okay, you take this little cup, and you pee in it, you put it in the cabinet in the bathroom, and don't bring your kids in here because we don't allow kids in here. So either leave your kids in the car or have somebody else watch them. And I'm just like, how do you figure I have kids? Because I don't have any kids.
This man had been dealing with babies, from what I'm hearing, since he was in his early 20s. So he like 60-something years old right now. The whole time, he forgot about me. I had morning sickness for 2 months straight, and I didn't have no nausea pill, so I was just winging it. My boyfriend wanted to curse that dude out.
And this lady, she goes, well, I'm just used to these young girls coming in here and let their kids do whatever they want to do.
And what blew my mind with him, I never had a doctor prescribe me promethazine. I'm like, okay, like that's a drug, like that's the stuff Lil Wayne used. I don't want to take that.
And this lady, she asked me, is your baby daddy a participant? Why he's not at any appointments with you? Is he in your child's life? Well, I felt like I didn't have to discuss that with her because that wasn't any of her business. But, of course, I asked her why. And she was like, well, y'all young girls, y'all tend to come in here by yourself a lot. And I was like, okay, I can't stay here.
He was like, oh, the first time he told me, he was like, oh, if you smoke marijuana for the pain, that's good for the baby, and all this other stuff. My boyfriend was livid.
They were white, they were all white, and everybody that seemed to go there was black. My sister was going there too with my niece, and she left because of the same reasons. I told her not even to go there, but she had to see for herself how nasty they were.
And his nursing staff was horrible. Like, their communication was all wrong. And I'm like, why are you trying to work with people while your attitude stinks?
I was trying to find another doctor's office, but it was really hard back then, finding a ride and getting my medical information transferred over, so it was really hard. And I stopped going.
He gave me a sample of promethazine. I took one. I didn't like it. I was like non-responsive a little bit. So I just stopped that.
I had just stopped going to my appointments. I felt so belittled and judged and like a statistic that I stopped going to my appointments, and I just ended up giving birth. And they were like, well, Miss Moore, you never did take your glucose test and this and that, and that could have been bad because that could have possibly been a DSS case.
I was like, if the cops were, not the cops, but if you were to find illicit drugs in my system, I'd have to do with the DSS and go to all these court cases. I ain't got time for that. And I was like, I don't want to take these drugs because I don't want my kid to come out all drugged up and stuff. So I told him, I said, look, we gonna have to end this date. I don't want to date you no more. And I ended up finding a new place else to go.
They treated me as if, well, she's just a fast-ass girl that got pregnant. That's why I stopped going. They treated me like I was a black statistic girl.
Did you ever feel discriminated against, either because of your race or because of Medicaid? Or did you feel that you were treated unfairly?
Pues yo pienso que por la raza no. Tal vez porque soy despistada o porque nunca me ha pasado que nos discriminen por la raza. No. Pero por el Medicaid, tal vez sí. Porque yo pienso que si yo no tuviera el Medicaid, si yo tuviera un seguro que pagara uno, podría tener una mejor opción, donde me siento más cómoda, donde me trate mejor y todo como eso.
Si tienes seguro privado, te hacen ultrasonidos de tercera dimensión de lo que te ocupes. Si no tienes seguro privado, te hacen un ultrasonido a los 5 meses, and that's it, no más.
You can tell who are really, like, I don't want to say doing their jobs, but you know, you can tell the difference.
You can say whatever you want to say.
Like, you can tell between someone who's just trying to get you in and out and somebody who actually, like, cares about what's going on with you. Like, it's a huge difference. Like, you can tell when certain doctors and nurses treat different people in a different kind of way. And I am talking about racially. Like, I can always tell from the greeting and the conversation. You know, keeping things short with me, but you're willing to have a whole conversation with them. You know, that didn't too much bother me because that's how things tend to be these days. So, you know.
Well, okay. So, my brother's married to a white, right? We gave birth at the same hospital at the same time with totally different experiences. Like, she would say that she's at an uncomfortable rate, like I can take, but it was always, oh, what can we do? How are you feeling? Is there something we can do? All the way down to Pitocin being given to rush my labor. And she was in labor so much longer than me before Pitocin was even introduced.
I have brown skin, and my son is light skinned, which, happens. And the nurse was like, "Are you sure he doesn't have a little white in him?" And I was like, "Are you serious? Why would you ask me that?" I said, "No, he doesn't." And she said, "Are you sure? Because mixed babies just have the prettiest skin." And I was feeling like, I don't know why y'all make this narrative that mixed kids have better than any other skin color, because if my baby was dark-skinned, would you have the same affection or attraction to my son? And I was like, "Look, white lady, I don't know what you got going on, but my son is black."
I didn't feel like anybody cared. I didn't feel like anybody was interested. I felt like it was just me and Neil, and we were just going to have to fight for ourselves.
Yeah, so I've taken a lot of classes in sociology and anthropology, read stories from Beyonce, Serena Williams, and I know about the medical apartheid that has happened. I know about the father of gynecology, that the start of gynecology was a white man who practiced on slaves. And you read so many stories of African American women who have died because of things happening during their pregnancy. And my mom had a lot of complications with all of us. My grandma had complications. So I had to take 10 times the extra steps to make sure that I found the right doctors and that I took care of myself. And that no matter what the doctor said, if I felt something was wrong, I said something anyway, even if they said it was fine. And then, when the pandemic hit, that's when things got a little wonky, because when the medical, I would say, pandemic hit, that's when the social pandemic hit, with the killing of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud. And it stressed me out, seeing it all over social media. It was so bad that my blood pressure was almost in the 200s. It was so high, and I was so stressed out every night because I would look, and it was like a new case was coming, or someone had just opened up an old case. And I felt like it was almost like people were posting it just for fun. Like, let's see how much excitement this gets because it's another black person that was killed or is missing and the case has been closed, and all of these things that I started to hyperventilate. Or I would feel myself getting so stressed I couldn't do half my schoolwork. Thankfully, my teachers were very understanding, so I was able to get my papers done and all that. And I had some really great classes, but I was so stressed, I was seeing spots. And my head was constantly hurting because it was like, I'm having a little boy. A little black boy. And I am married to a black man. So every time he left for work, I freaked. I was like, "Can you come home? You need to come home right now." But when Parker is born, we're gonna make sure he has this, 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 and this. He's not going nowhere. I'm gonna make sure he has a chance. We're gonna figure something out because I am not letting whatever happened to everyone else happen to my kid, because I will burn this city down.
Tell me about your relationships with your healthcare providers, the good and the bad.
Pues lo que a mí me gustó es que me atendían más rápido, tienen traductores y son muy amables ahí en la clínica. Pero lo que no me gustó es que no todos ahí son doctores, no sé por qué. Le hacía una pregunta y me decía, "Eso yo no lo sé, la doctora lo sabe". Y me puse un poco incómoda porque acá estaba yo sola con alguien que no sabía decir lo que yo quería que me dijera.
The good. Well, my doctor, I like the fact that he listens to what you have to say. Like, say I got a bad reading for my glucose or whatever. The way he explains it makes me see why you should pay attention to your glucose. He'll say, "Well, you see, these numbers could potentially cause harm to your baby. So to prevent that, you need to start paying attention to what you're eating, even just the proportions. Like, say you want something sweet. Instead of eating the whole pie, maybe just have one slice. You know, he explains things. This is just great, right?
And the bed. So my first OBGYN, when we were in there together, so I date a female, and her name is Alex, but they were more excited discussing, mom and dad. And when they found out it was mom, they looked weird. Like they had no poker face, and I was just like, oh, it's one of these places. Okay, that's fine. I'll just change OBGYNs. I'm not mad at them or anything, but I don't tolerate it.
The winner. Yes, when I got my ultrasound, he was already breached then, and he was basically telling me, okay, don't worry, this is common. There's a possibility that he may turn. There's a possibility that he may not. And I mean, of course, I really wanted him to turn because I didn't expect my first pregnancy to be a C-section. I've always wanted a water birth. And he did suggest actually turning the baby, and he gave me, we can do it. It's very painful, and the pros and the cons, and he wouldn't necessarily suggest it, but it was totally my choice to do it. So he just made me feel comfortable with making the decision myself.
Y lo malo, when I got a surgery, I was so nervous. I felt like literally my whole body was on the massage table, and I was like, that's how I felt. So I was uncomfortable to hold my baby and start breastfeeding. And I was asking for help, like for her to please stand closer to me and help me hold the baby. And she was, oh my God, just hold him. If you don't want to hold him, we're going to send him to another nurse. And the way she said it just made me feel so stupid.
The good.
She just happened to be the doctor on duty that day, but even from the beginning, she was just so good. She was kind, she was present. It just was an energy and a vibe, and I liked her. She just made me feel so comfortable.
And the bad.
Cada vez que iba la doctora me decía, si sigues así te vamos a hacer esto, esto o aquello. Cada vez que volvía me decía, yo no recuerdo que la doctora haya dicho eso, déjame buscar el archivo. Entonces como que se desconectaba todo.
Lo bueno.
Oh, I loved my doctor. I mean, he was thorough, and his answers weren't short. Anything I didn't understand, he reassured me, and I look forward to going to all of my appointments because I had built that rapport with him.
Y lo malo. I'm a phlebotomist that has to work the entire floor. And being that I'm having twins, there's a lot of pressure down there when I walk. So I was asking him. He didn't have to put me on bed rest or anything. I was just asking him to put a restriction on walking or whatever so that when I did feel uncomfortable, I could just sit and rest for a bit. And he wouldn't do that. And then we were asking him about COVID rooms and stuff, and he was like, well, what do you do? I told him I'm a phlebotomist, and he was like, well, that's a price you have to pay for the job that you do. And if you do get it, we'll just address the situation then.
The good. I love my doctor. He a real nice man. Very understanding. He listens to me and my problems. And I'm not trying to assign gender roles or anything, but I was thinking I would relate more to a female doctor than a male doctor. But that's not what happened. And that meant a lot to me, to be able to trust him. Because, we already don't have the best mortality rates when it comes to being pregnant and giving birth. So when I have an inkling of a feeling that a doctor doesn't personally care for me, that's why I was so quick to switch. Because I need you to love me like my family loves me. Or at least pretend you do.
And the bad. He was trying to tell me I didn't need any pain medicine because I had an epidural, but I'm telling him, remember the epidural didn't work. It failed. So I felt the stitches. And then he's trying to tell me, well, you're just in pain from having a baby. I'm like, no, I can feel the stitches. And he finally believed me when he tested my foot. Like, can you feel that? Yes! And I said, can you take this catheter out? I need to get up and go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom and walked all by myself. I could feel everything. And they were like, oh, wow. I know when I can feel things. I was telling you all. And then when I was pushing, they were trying to tell me it's just pressure. I'm like, no, that's pain. I know pressure. This is pain. And I just wanted to scream at one point, why aren't y'all listening to me? Ya he tenido 3, 4 embarazos con ellos y el primero estuvo bien, el segundo estuvo bien, el tercero estuvo bien, el cuarto estuvo bien. ¿Qué puede pasar con un quinto, no? Y no. La realidad es que cada embarazo es diferente y cada cual lleva su propio riesgo. Entonces, a ellos a veces como que se les hace muy normal, como que, no, que de cada 5 mujeres, 3 pierden su bebé. Y no debería ser normal. Yo creo que con la pérdida que yo tuve el año pasado, eso se me quedó de que no me debo de callar la boca, que debo de preguntar, no, que debo de exigir citas cuando no me quieran dar citas. Yo quería citas, yo quería ver a la doctora y que escuchara el corazón del bebé, que me dijera, ¿sabe qué, señora? Su bebé está bien. O ¿sabe qué, señora? Su bebé, usted lo pierde y no se da cuenta. Ya cuando llegué al hospital de emergencias, ya el bebé no le palpitaba el corazón. Ya yo lo había perdido. Y me sentí tan impotente. Estaba en un estado de shock, o sea, yo acababa de ir a chequearme, yo vi el bebé en el ultrasonido. Y te quedas así como con mucha frustración y depresión porque, o sea, yo sí estaba embarazada. Yo cuando quedo embarazada, yo me imagino el bebé así llorando en sentido figurado, otra vida más en la casa y te quedas así como, ¿qué pasó? Yo sí estaba embarazada y ya no.
What do you feel you need to have a healthy pregnancy?
Having a strong support system because, you know, sometimes when you're pregnant, you get like a stuffy nose and it's kind of hard to breathe. So just having someone there to tell, like, is this COVID symptoms or is it pregnancy symptoms? You know, just having someone there to talk to, I think that's really just it.
Well, my main support system is my sister, my little sister. She's 17, but whenever I feel like, okay, I'm a little overwhelmed, I just need this night. It doesn't matter if she takes my boys and I keep my daughter. She will help with whatever I need.
Were there any organizations that helped you?
Yes, I have a doula through Birth Matters. When I first went my first visit to the doctor, they asked me if I wanted to join and stuff, and she would come and talk to me. And she got me a counselor I could talk to also, and she would help me get things for my baby.
Power in changing. It's a diaper bank. And I went there for my 1-year-old and they gave us Pampers. So that was a blessing.
El padre de mi bebé, ya no estamos en comunicación porque él fue violento con mi hijo, o sea, él me agredió y ¿cómo se llama? El apoyo de Sister Care. Ellos siempre me ayudaron con comida, con jabón para lavar ropa y shampoo y todo como eso. Y me fui a una casa hogar como un mes. Cuando estaba embarazada siempre tenía el apoyo de ellos. Pero ya después, ya cuando terminó todo eso, eso era ya de mi propia cuenta.
Honestly, at first, I was kind of hesitating accepting service or help through a company or anyone. But with Family Solutions, I was like, okay, let me give them a try because this is my first pregnancy. And the lady I work with, she's real nice. She's been talking about stuff ahead of time so that I would know what to expect. They're real nice and I like them.
Pues Pasos a mí me ayudó desde el inicio de mis embarazos, con ayuda y clases de cuidado prenatal y clases de lactancia. Y pues me ayudó mucho por ser madre primeriza y estar sola en este país. I'm in a bunch of groups on Facebook. I'm in Mommy Support, Pregnancy Corner, Stay-at-Home Mom Support. I'm in all 3 of them groups. And, you know, it's great because they're from all over the world. Like, different states different. Different states handling their births different. So it was just really nice hearing what they had to go through, especially with what we had to go through down here.
Okay, yeah, actually I grew up in foster care. I've grown up literally all over the place. This is my first pregnancy, it wasn't planned. I was living in North Carolina with his father in maybe a domestic violence situation. When I originally left and got on the Greyhound that comes here, I didn't know I was pregnant. I didn't have anywhere to live, but I would rather leave that situation and figure out what to do. I was sleeping down the street from 5 Points when that girl got kidnapped. I did that for almost a month trying to find shelters. One day, I passed out and had a seizure. And when I got to the hospital, they told me I was pregnant. I don't really believe in abortion, so there was really no other option than to keep it and just figure it out, you know? So a lot of shelters denied me. I didn't expect them to deny me while I was pregnant, even though I was epileptic, because I've gotten to shelters previously being epileptic. They basically would consider me a super liability. That's basically what every shelter told me. Even some churches wouldn't let me in pregnant because I was in domestic violence. They felt like if the person did try to come find me, then it would bring unwanted attention to the shelter. Really, it just took me, I was embarrassed, but I did it. I stood outside with a sign that said, "Homeless and pregnant, please help me." The money I made, I put on a room, I paid my phone bill, and I just Googled and called places all day long so I could get approved. One day, I found an apartment that was based on income and got on a waiting list for a service apartment, like literally a couple weeks after I moved in. So I found care immediately after that. I went to a place called Daybreak Pregnancy Center. They told me I needed to be seen by a doctor immediately because I was going to be considered high-risk pregnancy. Then I made sure they had my insurance. I have healthy connections. I had already been on Medicaid because I was in foster care. So I don't make it seem like I got the help all by myself. I had already had that help from being a foster child. Then coming home, going by myself to deal with a newborn baby after I had a C-section, it was very hard because I didn't have any support and I had to do everything on my own. I feel like I should have been home with maybe home health care, knowing that I was going to be taking care of a baby by myself, carrying everything. I was going to be leaving the hospital on the bus, getting to the hospital on the bus. Then coming home for my second surgery, which I feel like could have been prevented because after your first surgery, you had your 1-week appointment. I told them I didn't feel like something was right. They're like, "Oh no, it's gonna be a little green." I was like, "There's a kind of funny smell there. I feel like you guys should check it out." "Oh no, it's fine." Then a couple weeks later, I said, "Something is feeling like it's ripping or tearing." And they sent me straight to the hospital. They left me there for 8 hours. Didn't really take it serious when they were supposed to call over and get me immediately sent to a CT scan. But they let me sit there. Then finally, when they did put me in a room at like 3 in the morning, actually being rolled down to the CT machine, my stomach busted wide open. It still took them 3 or 4 days to get me into surgery. So yeah, the second time was even worse. They kept telling me, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." But you know your body, you know what I'm saying? I knew that something was wrong. But they didn't want to listen to me. So that was really frustrating as well because this could have been prevented.
What changes would you want to see happen to improve the pregnancy experience of all women?
We need more black women in the healthcare industry. We need more black women and black men, but especially black women, because they understand. They know the disparities. They know how negligent they are in healthcare with black women. To hear how black women are treated during childbirth is really disheartening. We have to deal with so much already. And now black women are getting pregnant and openly saying, "I hope I don't die." That's sad.
Pues no sé si mucho pedir, pero a mí me encantaría que cuando uno vaya, no sé, me han dicho que en otros hospitales lo hacen, que usted va a su cita y mira siempre al mismo ginecólogo, no que un día mira uno, un día mira al otro. Eso no me gusta, porque allá en mi país, cuando yo voy, siempre miraba a mi mismo ginecólogo, aunque acá ellos saben. Ellos estudian tu historial antes de atenderlo. Todos ellos saben todo su historial, pero aún así a mí me gustaría que cuando uno vaya sea siempre el mismo doctor.
I understand that you're the medical professional, but when I'm talking, just listen. You know, maybe there's something I'm feeling that you can't see in your chart. Just listen to me.
You know, some doctors act like their patience is short with you, or that they don't want to touch you just based off of your physical, and I don't feel that's right. A doctor that wants to be a doctor to any and everybody is what we need, not just those doctors that, you know, only like certain people or only want to deal with certain people, but a doctor who wants to be a doctor to any and everybody.
I feel like when you're homeless and they just look at you, they start prejudging. Because when you see me, I don't look homeless. But when they look at my chart, they say, oh, she's probably on drugs or something. That's not the case. I'm going through a hard time. Everybody falls on hard times. I feel like when you're homeless and you're a woman, they just have this picture of you in their head of who you really are.
You know, I just feel like this phrasing plays a big part in how you're treated, in general, period, pregnant or not.
I just wish I was treated better. That's all. And you know, I feel like there needs to be more empathy in healthcare. I know it's a tiring profession. I know it gets hard. I know it gets overwhelming. But maybe we can have more advocates, like street team advocates for people. A person, just someone in the hospital, make more jobs for people in the hospital to be advocates for women in childbirth, especially Black women in childbirth.
Pues informarse bien de los seguros, aplicar al Medicaid del embarazo al inicio del embarazo para que les llegue antes del parto, hacer su cuenta de Access Health para no perderse citas de cuidado prenatal por no poder pagarlo. En la estancia del hospital, pidan lo que necesitan. Ahora por COVID el personal es corto y tienes que pedir lo que necesitas. No se preocupen por los biles que le lleguen, sino que llamen de donde venga ese bill y busquen el recibo, asegúrense de que esté pago. Si no, llamen y den su número de seguro. Y buscar organizaciones como Pasos. Pasos es una excelente primera opción para buscar información. Me gustaría que más organizaciones como esta se hagan disponibles a la comunidad. Y desearles bendiciones y buena suerte a todas las madres embarazadas de Carolina del Sur y de todas partes. I wish I had a chance to do the centering program. You know, being around other pregnant women, learning more about your body, your baby. It would have been great for me and my boyfriend to do something together so he wouldn't feel left out.
I would just say, make sure you understand your body, your life. You ask as many questions as you want, because this is the health of you and your baby. And go get a second opinion if you feel like something is not right, or switch doctors. Whatever you have to do, baby, you do it. Because this is your baby, and this is your body. So you do whatever you have to do to ensure that they're giving you whatever your doctor or whoever in your life is not.
Pues más que todo que alcemos la voz, que cuando se preocupa o cuando tiene algo en su cuidado prenatal, que sea persistente y que no nos dejamos abrumir ni nada de eso. Y cuando nos preocupa algo, que debemos llamar y que pues tenemos derecho a un trato de salud justo y no nos sintamos que no tenemos valor, que no tenemos derecho. Contribuimos a este país de una u otra forma y deseamos un bien tanto para el país que como las personas que viven en él.
What changes do you want to see to improve the pregnancy experiences of all women?
Listen to them.
Escúchanos.
Listen to us.